Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
With the passing of Supreme Court Justice Scalia, these words by Downs Bidwell that were written back in 1901 are so prevalent for today. It will be an evil day for American liberty if the theory of a government outside of the supreme law of the land finds lodgment in our constitutional jurisprudence. No higher duty rests upon this court than to exert its full authority to prevent all violation of the principles of the Constitution. Amen. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. We need a pledger with our Pledge of Allegiance. I'm back. Good morning. Oh, good morning, everybody. And I'm going to have to retrain myself again after quite an extensive vacation. Welcome back, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services. Hello, Kelly and the crew, always at your disposal. Get on the route service, get rid of your garbage. Call them at 734-6969. And right now, without further ado, let's get our Pledge of Allegiance on the air. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Are you going to do it for me this morning?
Yes, sir.
Well, how are you doing anyway, young man?
I'm good. How are you, sir? Did you enjoy your break?
Let's just say it is going to be rather difficult to sit here for 3 hours.
Well, I'll help you through it.
All right, buddy. Hey, do the pledge for us, please.
All righty. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very well done. Hey, Wheels, crank it up just a little bit for me in my headsets, would you please, over there? I appreciate it if you could.
Sure.
All right, we've got to get to the weather right now. Brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Oh, these are wonderful people. And I'll tell you, they've got all your carpet, all your flooring, all your kitchen construction. They can just make your whole house individualized for you. That's right, whatever you need to make your house a home, Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-6945. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather forecast for this Monday, February 15th, and President's Day. Looks like partly to mostly cloudy skies. It is going to be windy for today, so we are in a wind advisory through this afternoon. Out of the west, 20 to 25 miles an hour, gusts possible above that. High of 53, tonight low of 34. Tomorrow, winds dying down out of the southwest, right around 8 miles an hour. Going to have partly cloudy skies, high close to 60. 57 is what they're calling for with an overnight low of 33. Mostly cloudy and 56 for Wednesday. Rain showers and more wind expected, possibly out of the southwest up to 30 miles an hour. High of 45 for Thursday, overnight low of 31. Then for Friday, looking at partly cloudy skies, again high of 50. Yesterday's high was 44, and the overnight low was 35. That is your weather for Zeb at the Range.
Oh, she does a great job. Thank you very much, and brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design. 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Oh, we've got a lot of thank yous I want to take care of in just a moment, so stand by for that. And also a couple of public service announcements, one of which I want to mention right away. I want to let you know that the Minnecasia Lincoln Day Luncheon is coming up this next Saturday, February 20th. The meet and greet starts at 12:30 p.m., lunch at 1:30 p.m., auction after that. It'll be at Maury's Steakhouse Event Center, and everybody try to be there, please. Tickets are on sale at the door, so we'll see you there, okay? Don't forget our friends, too, at Daryl's Cleaners. You know, I've been taking my clothes, and boy, have they got a bunch of clothes to take care of this time. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. We've been going in there for years, and boy, if they can renovate my clothes, all the rumply-crumplies, and make them look brand spanking new, think of what they can do to help you. Wonderful people. Kevin, Cindy, everybody at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You stop in and see them today. By the way, too, we got home, and I think Deanne said we had like 973 emails. Wow! Thank you, SafeLink Internet. Everything functions properly while we were gone. They do a wonderful job. And don't forget to give them a call. Get on their service. SafeLink Internet, serving you, Idaho's #1 choice for wireless internet. Number to call, 677-8000. That number again, 677-8000. You call them. No contract options. Unlimited data, no credit checks. They can help you at SafeLink Internet. All right, your calls would be appreciated at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. A couple of things I want to kind of clean up here a little bit. I really enjoyed the 2 weeks off. I am sorry if it caused concern for some, but I got to tell you, for personal reasons and a chance to catch our breath, Goober and I really appreciated the vacation time, if you will. And I want to say thank you to Gina. And I also want to say thank you to Sharon, and also Wheels. Those three people kept the show running and going, and I appreciate it. Always professional, and I really want to say thank you. And I also want to say thank you to you, the audience. Many kind, thoughtful calls and emails, some of which we're still going through. I appreciate that. And now we're back to serve you with real news and honest news opinions. And your thoughts are always appreciated. So give me a call right now at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I also want to include in my thank yous this morning some folks that are so near and dear to Deanne and I. And that's, of course, Kiltman and Lori and Rocky and Becca. If you're listening this morning, all four of you, thank you for your friendship, and thank you for all you did for us while we were gone. We are blessed with great friends, and I appreciate it. Okay, today's President's Day, if you're not aware of that. President's Day is an American holiday celebrated on the third Monday in February. Originally established in 1885 in recognition of President George Washington, and it's still officially called Washington's Birthday by the federal government, even though George was born on February 22nd. The holiday became popularly known as President's Day after it was moved as part of 1971's Uniform Monday Holiday Act, an attempt to create more three-day weekends for the nation's workers. And President's Day is now popularly viewed as a day to celebrate all United States presidents, past and present. Yeah. The story of President's Day date begins back in 1800 following President George Washington's death in 1799. His February 22nd birthday became a perennial day of remembrance. And by the way, did you know this? President's Day never falls on the actual birthday of any American president. 4 presidents, George Washington, William Henry Harrison, Abraham Lincoln, and Ronald Reagan were born in February, but their birthdays all come either too early or too late to coincide with President's Day, which is always celebrated on the 3rd Monday of the month. Thought I'd pass that along to you this morning. And Washington and Lincoln still remain the 2 most recognized leaders, but President's Day is now popularly seen as a day to recognize all of our presidents. There you go. President's Day 2016. Give me a call. I'd like to hear from you. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You need electrical supplies? You need anything for your heating and air conditioning? Well, the place to go and the place to know is Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-0459. They're open 7:30 to 5 Monday through Fridays, and they are there to serve you. Wonderful people over at Ramsey Heating and Electric, and they've been with us on this program for 16, 17 years. My goodness, we appreciate them. You call them today or stop in 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, Ramsey Heating and Electric. I gotta tell you that yesterday we ate at Denny's restaurant for Valentine's Day, and I will tell you the food was tremendous and the service was tremendous, and were they busy. There were a lot of sweethearts taking their sweethearts out to Denny's restaurant, and it was phenomenal. Don't forget, our next lunch bunch at Denny's restaurant will be on February the 25th, Thursday, February 25th, and 2 locations to serve you, 611 Overland in Burley and 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. You're gonna love the food. You're gonna love the people. You're just gonna love Denny's restaurant. 611 Overland in Burley and 291 Pole Line in Twin Falls. Wonderful people at Denny's restaurants. Oh, come on, make me feel welcome. Please don't make me feel lonesome. Give me a call at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. With all the good news coming back and the kind remarks and everything, there was some bad news, and we'll talk about that right now. Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia passing away at 79 years of age. Dying at a very remote ranch in West Texas. I understand it's even hard to get cell phone service out of there. And at first they thought it was a heart attack. And then, and this is kind of mysterious in some ways, and I certainly hope all the facts come out. Then they came out and said that he passed away from natural causes. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Thank you for your call.
Well, good morning, Zeb, and welcome back.
Well, thank you, sir. God bless you. How you been?
Besides the back pain, all right.
All right. Well, I hope that subsides. What can I do for you this morning?
Well, I just want to make a good comment about this recent development in the Supreme Court. You know, right now, as with the passing of Justice Scalia, that puts it in even 4-4 for liberal and conservative. And I've been listening to the news, and of course, Democrats, they want to appoint one now, and then the Republicans, they want to wait until the next president. I'm hoping that we'll be able to delay this so that we can put a conservative in replacement for Justice Scalia, because if it goes liberal to the liberal side, I got a feeling our Constitution's in big trouble.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I think you said it very succinctly. Right now, and you got to be fair on this, caller, right now, both sides, both ideologies, left or right, have a right and a movement going for their party to have a nominee. And you know as well as I do that I definitely think that with a split decision right now of 4-4 on the Supreme Court, that Obama's going to do all he can to bring a leftist liberal in there. And on the other side, I hope that McConnell and others will fight that leftist ideology, because I think we're going to see a major assault on the First Amendment and the Second Amendment if the court swings to a liberal stance. And I share your concerns.
Yes, I also believe that it would also be an assault on the Fourth Amendment.
That's very true.
A lot of these law enforcement agencies would want nothing more than to be able and just bust down your door and take whatever they want, and they don't need a warrant or nothing. I
agree with you, and I think our concerns are well-founded, because these are very critical times. And if you'll think back to as many as 3 and 4 months ago, I ran quite a few series of segments on my programs in regards to the Supreme Court and the aging of the Supreme Court and the possible changing and transitioning of the Supreme Court. And now, very unfortunately, with the passing of Justice Scalia, we're going to see what might happen.
Yep, and I was over at a friend's house the other day, and I just happened to mention that there's a couple of justices that are in pretty bad health, and I'll be darned if Saturday one of them didn't kick the bucket.
Yeah. Sir, thank you very much.
Is in pretty bad health, and I got a feeling that one might kick the bucket within the year.
Yeah, well, again, ours is not to sit and make conjecture about someone's living or dying, but now that it has happened with Antonin Scalia, it's a very serious situation.
Concerned.
Yep, I agree with you. Thank you for your call. God bless.
You too, and take care, Zach.
All right, sir, thank you. What are your thoughts about what happened with Justice Scalia? His position on the Supreme Court as basically one of the most knowledgeable Supreme Court justices ever in the history of this nation. Now his voice is quieted forever. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't go away. I got to tell everybody about Mini-Cash sales. My goodness, they, of course, bring you Dr. History on Tuesdays at 10:06, and we'll look forward to that tomorrow. Mini-Cash sales at 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. All your lumber, all the lumber packages for your spring remodeling. Oh, you're going to change this. Oh, you're going to add on to this. Oh, you're going to build this. They can help you, and they will. And they've got the great Western windows, too. You check it out today with Zach and the whole crew at Mini-Cash Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, bringing you on Tuesdays Dr. History. Caller, thank you for your call. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. Welcome back.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate that.
The thing that concerns me is somebody like Bernie Sanders ending up in the Supreme Court. I think what happened during the 1917 revolution over there in Russia is where the first thing these communists went after was our financial institutions. And this is what Bernie Sanders is trying to do in this country.
You know, Tony, and by the way, over at the station wheels, I'm having a little hard time hearing the callers, so if you can boost them just a little bit. I share your concerns about Bernie Sanders, and I'm also, while I was gone, I followed the news every day. And, Tony, I got to tell you that I am absolutely shocked that a socialist/communist that is absolutely telling all of his audiences, especially the younger generation, oh, we can give this to you free, we can do this for free. Somebody's got to pay the piper. And a man like that is gathering huge crowds, it's scary to me, Tony, to think the American public is being duped into his absolute idiocy.
Well, the younger generation has no idea what living under socialism or a form of communism is, because they'll tell you what doctors you can choose, what dentists you can go to, what schools you have to go to. It is not free.
I agree. I totally agree. I think what's going to happen in the next couple of days, we're going to see a full court press by the Obama administration to name a Supreme Court justice that's going to be of their ideology. And boy, I think the blank is going to hit the fan, Tony. It's going to be serious over the next couple of months.
Well, Well, what concerns me, one more thing, is why was Scalia buried so quickly?
You know, there's a lot of unanswered questions, but I got to share this with you. I called back in Washington this morning, Washington, D.C., and I talked to a couple of the think tanks, and they're very cautious, naturally, to say that, there's some kind of a conspiracy theory. But when you think about some of the facts that have happened, and he would just the day before had gone to his own personal doctor before going to Texas, quite frankly, I've got a lot of unanswered questions myself, Tony. I really do.
Well, keep our fingers crossed, Ed.
I will, my friend.
For a rough ride.
God bless you and Mary. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What are your thoughts? We could see, and I'm holding in my hand for those of you that watch on the internet, zebbell.com, and you listen to the audio and also watch the video. I'm holding in my hand the Constitution of the United States of America, with the three first words in very dark print, very big print, "We the people." And with the passing of Justice Scalia, and the court now at a 4-4 standoff, and the ideologies of the left right now, they are scrambling. You can bet they are scrambling to find somebody to put in there that would absolutely make an attack on our first, our second, and many more parts of our Constitution. This is a very scary time. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to tell you, too, about Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. I am going to make an appointment to get back there after being away from the rehab and the exercises for over 2 weeks. Oh, my body is saying, please go back to Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Nick Greenwell and all of the physical therapists over there, they do a wonderful job of helping you get back to being and feeling like you. All right, they've got that hydrotherapy pool, the only one in the area, all the exercises, all the sports medicine. They know and they care. At Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Really nice people. Your turn. Give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What about the Supreme Court? We had been warned for a long time earlier this year that because of health and because of changes and transitions on the Supreme Court, regardless of whether on the left or on the right, and I had no clue that Justice Scalia was in bad health. They said originally, I want to go back to this, they said originally that they thought it was a heart attack. Then they changed it and said natural causes. And then they said this morning something that was, I know a lot of people are going to jump on this and try to make a conspiracy theory out of it, but they found him in bed with the pillow over his head. Those were the words that were used. Now, I did call back to Washington, D.C. this morning, and I did talk to some of the main think tanks. One person I talked to this morning, don't read a lot into that. You know, there's been times they said, well, I woke up with the pillow over my head. That might be all well and good. But in the last 339 days of this Obama administration, where change and transition are the key words right now for Obama, change and transition, I'm a little bit worried as to what and how this man is going to achieve his final workings for the United States of America. I don't trust this man. I don't trust anything he's going to do with the Supreme Court or how he's going to try to achieve some of his ideology. Your thoughts, give me a call right after this at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to remind you about Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. I ran into a gentleman over the last 2 weeks, as a matter of fact, where I was, and we were talking about hearing, and he's going through hearing problems, and he said, hearing is just probably a part of getting older. I said, no. Quite contraire. I said, if you were closer, you need to call and stop in and see the lovely Dr. Christine Pickup and talk to her about your hearing problems, because it might have something to do with your heart health, your kidney health. It may have something to do with some of the medications you're on, whatever the case might be, high blood pressure. All of those can be contributory factors as to a lack or a diminishment of hearing. So please call her today for an appointment, a hearing screening at 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, 312-0957. You call today. You know what we're going to do right now? Yep, we're going to give away, I feel big-hearted today, we're going to give away a half-dozen cinnamon rolls from the delicious bakery at Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street in Rupert. What a delicious restaurant. What an absolutely phenomenal bakery. And these cinnamon rolls are absolutely heaven sent. Now, here's the question for today, and it's for first-time winners today. And if you win, all you have to do is call and let them know when you're going to be by to pick up your cinnamon rolls. The number to call, 436-0354. They'll have them hot and juicy and ready for you when you call. Here's the question for today. And it's a little bit tougher. On the show, the TV series that was a hit comedy series for many years on television, Everybody Loves Raymond. Remember that? Everybody Loves Raymond. Ray Romano was the star of the show, and it was a family sitcom, etc. Okay, what did Raymond do for a living? What did he do for a living to bring the money home, bring the bacon home to his family? What did Raymond do for a job? First person to call, 436-2244 or 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call, and you can be possibly the winner of the cinnamon rolls. Come on, hurry, call fast. Give me a jingle at 436-2244. On the show, Everybody Loves Raymond. What did Raymond do for a living? I'll help a little bit. His brother was a police officer. Remember that, the big guy? Let's find out what Raymond did. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hi. He was a sports writer.
Who is this?
This is Cindy.
Cindy what?
Cindy Manning. I'm Doug's wife.
Oh, my.
He's not helping me. I just know that.
Now, wait a minute, Cindy. Be real honest with me. Doug is not sitting there coaching and coercing your answer. Is that right?
No, I'm actually out doing chores with my puppies right now.
Doing chores with your puppies. Cindy Manning, congratulations. You are the winner of the cinnamon rolls. All you have to do is call over there and let them know when you're going to be calling over or coming over to get the cinnamon rolls, and they'll have them piping hot and fresh for you.
Oh, okay. That sounds great. Thank you.
God bless you, Cindy. Thank you. Say hello to the old man for us.
I will.
All right, take care. Thank you. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
On the show, Everybody Loves Raymond. Ray Romano was a sports writer, and that was what he did for a living. And congratulations, Cindy Manning is the winner this morning. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Our thanks again to Sophie's Chatterbox at 530 East Street in Rupert. The number to call, 436-0354. What are your thoughts about Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia passing away at 79, and a huge voice for conservatism in this country is gone? It's gone. Some of the concerns that I listened to yesterday and also this morning in regards to our First Amendment of free speech, our Second Amendment of gun ownership, really could be in the crosshairs of liberal left ideology with a potential leftist appointment by the Obama administration. A transition away from our rights and our freedoms. What are your thoughts? Give me a call, 436-2244. While I'm waiting for your call, I hope it comes in next. We also want to remind you about Berry Equipment and Rental. They've got 3 locations serving you. Addison Avenue, West Twin Falls, South Lincoln and Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, always with the best equipment to serve you and get the job done right. Whether you're renting the equipment for a job or you're going to be buying the equipment, my goodness, they've got it all for you. You stop in, they've got the Coyote tractors, and they've got the great big Doosan loaders, and they got all the Bobcats. They've got it all for you at Berry Equipment and Rental. Twin Falls, Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Really, really nice people. All right, your thoughts. Calls 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Here's something I want to just mention quickly, and then we'll take some calls regarding the passing of Antonin Scalia, Supreme Court Justice. But this needs to be said. We watched the Super Bowl while we were on our vacation. And I have been highly critical of many, many national anthem singers. I've been very critical of some of the big-name singers that have been thrust to the forefront to sing the national anthem, and in my opinion, I've criticized them on this program, and they have done a terrible, lousy job trying to transition it to a new sound, a new concept, whatever. But that being said, I was absolutely shocked. My jaw was hanging down when at the Super Bowl, and I'm sure this has been discussed by others since that time, but I want to mention it in my own way this morning. When I heard that Lady Gaga was going to sing the national anthem, I said to my wife, I said, please, they are reaching out and they're absolutely trying to catch leaves in the wind. I was never impressed with her talent. I was never impressed with the way that she had some of her shows that were put in different awards segments for award shows on TV. I just didn't like the lady at all. I thought she was very low-classed. That being said, I got my comeuppance when I heard Lady Gaga in a voice that I did not know she had the range, I did not know she had the ability, and I did not know she had the professionalism to sing the national anthem as good as I have ever heard it at any event, anywhere, anytime. I was shocked. I mean, I'd taken aback to the point where I thought everybody that I was with on that occasion, there were about 30 of us watching the Super Bowl, be that as it was. And I can honestly say that we all took our hats off. We all sat there in reverence of that song. And while it was being sung by Lady Gaga, eyes of various people started going around the room like in wonderment and absolute awe as to how this woman, with her reputation not being the best, could sing the national anthem in such an awe-inspiring way. And so for those of you that have heard me criticize her in the past, I take that criticism and I try to sweep it under the rug this morning because I thought that lady did a phenomenal job. And I also want to comment and say that last night, as Deanne and I were in kind of a resting mood from all of our travels, we watched the beginning of the NBA All-Star Game last night. And they had a person on there singing the national anthem, and I think his name was, I'm trying to remember, Neo. I think that's his stage name. He's an actor and also a singer, Neo. Neyo. And I thought his rendition was absolutely wonderful. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Thank you for your call.
I got to say one thing. Lady Gaga, if you notice, she had her hand over her heart as well. So despite everything we say about her, and that, how weird she is, she sang a beautiful job, and she had her hand over her heart as well.
I will not say anything negative about this lady's talents in the future, even though I don't agree with the way that she has a performance. I don't agree with all the sexual innuendos. I don't agree with some of the language. I don't agree with some of the things that go on with her stage show, etc. I find them to be not very high class, but I got my comeuppance, let me tell you, Kilt Man, when I heard her sing the national anthem. And I'll say this, and I'll go toe-to-toe with anybody. I thought it was comparable to the great job that Whitney Houston had done years ago.
Well, I agree. But the thing is, like I said, I don't remember the last time I saw somebody sing the national anthem and they had their hand over their heart. They get up there, they do their job, and they get out of it.
Yeah, I agree.
So to show that respect for our country and that, I was very much impressed.
Well, did you have a chance to catch the actor-singer Neil last night? He walked out to center court, and he had an old kind of a felt fedora on his head, and he took it off, placed it over his heart, and Deanna and I looked at each other, and I said, oh boy, I wonder what kind of a version this guy's going to sing. And we were taken aback again. It seems like all of a sudden some of these entertainers are realizing, and singers are realizing, that the national anthem is our national anthem, and they're doing it with respect.
I agree 100%. So,
all right.
That's cool. That's cool if they're starting to realize it.
All right, buddy. Hey, again, thank you to you and Lori for all you do. Thanks. God bless. Have a great day. Thank you.
You too.
All right. I know that there's going to be some younger people in the audience that are going to say, see, we told you she could sing. Well, I never realized it until I heard the name itself. The name itself, Gaga. I mean, please. I have referred to this lady, and I'll make a public apology right now. I have referred to her as Lady Gag. Well, I'm taking that away this morning with an apology to her and her talents for singing. Lady Gaga did a phenomenal job with our national anthem, and I mean that. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Oh, by the way, one other thing I want to say this morning, and this goes out to all the left Democrats in our area that were so quick to throw the word racist at me when Obama ran first back in 2007 to be elected in 2008. And I was against his position. I didn't like his ideology. I didn't like his politics, and I even hate it worse today. But let's stop with the playing of the race card. Let's stop with the playing of, oh, we need to have more blacks involved in this, that, and the other. I don't know if you caught the NBA All-Star game last night. One player selected to the All-Star game was of a lighter skin color. That's right, Paul Gasol. Paul Gasol. Not from the United States. Every other player was black. Now, when you look at the NBA and you look also at the NFL, the numbers and the percentages are staggering. Here was an NBA All-Star game last night with one Caucasian player represented. One. And one white coach. I am a little sick and tired of hearing, well, we've got to have more diversity. We've got to have more blacks. What about us old white boys? Go ahead and hang the racist tag on me for that. When you look at the NBA, you are looking at a 95%, almost in most cases, blacks versus whites. When you look at the NFL, you're looking at 75 to 80%. And so when you throw racist out, you better be open-minded enough to think and understand maybe the whites could be calling the race card. Time for the weather, and the weather is brought to you this hour by Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. Oh, do they do a wonderful job on all your awards, your recognition awards and trophies, all your plaques, everything. I've got a jacket I need to take over and have some work done on that they do a wonderful, wonderful job. And whether it's jackets or caps or your business cards, everything, please get a hold of them today. Mad River Laser at 502 East Street in Rupert. They are simply the best. Here now is Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather forecast for this Monday, February 15th, and President's Day. Looks like partly to mostly cloudy skies. It is going to be windy for today, so we are in a wind advisory through this afternoon. Out of the west, 20 to 25 miles an hour, gusts possible above that. High at 53, tonight low at 34. Tomorrow, winds dying down out of the southwest, right around 8 miles an hour. Going to have partly cloudy skies, high close to 60. 57 is what they're calling for with an overnight low of 33. Mostly cloudy and 56 for Wednesday. Rain showers and more wind expected, possibly out of the southwest up to 30 miles an hour. High of 45 for Thursday, overnight low of 31. Then for Friday, looking at partly cloudy skies, again high of 50. Yesterday's high was 44 and the overnight low was 35. That is your weather for Zeb at the Range.
Gina did a great job on the weather. Thank you. She's got that little piccolo in the background, you know, kind of significant of one of the instruments of, the Patriots of that era. Thank you, Gina. And brought to you by Mad River Laser at 502 East Street in Rupert. Phenomenal people serving you. Come on, give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I watched the debate the other night, the GOP debate, and I really would like you to weigh in on this. How many of you out there in the radio reaches of this program are honestly for Donald Trump? Okay, now I have said on this program, I've been non-committal about who I am really going to back as a candidate. Yes, I like the fact that Donald Trump has stood politics up on its ear and, quite frankly, has managed to change, I think, a lot of things that the establishment they've been pushing it down our throats for years, folks, and I'm glad to see the anti-establishment, the Fiorinas, the Trumps, and the Carsons really get in and get involved. But the other night, when I was watching that debate, I thought that Trump hurt himself with me and any possible support I could have for Donald Trump. And I'll tell you why. Caller, stay with me on the phone. Don't go away. I'm just going to make this short and very succinct. After 9/11, I was very proud of George Bush as president. I was proud of his demeanor. I was proud of his standing up and looking the bad guys in the eye and saying, we're going to come after you. I was proud and I felt comforted that George Bush was the president after that horrific act against us here in the United States of America. And I thought that Donald Trump hurt himself by slandering and demeaning George Bush during that debate. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Thank you for your call.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, Jerry.
Good to see you back.
Thank you.
You know, that debate was such a debacle. I don't know how we're ever going to get a Republican elected to any office. All they do is chew each other up. It's just sickening.
I will agree with you. I've reached the point of no return on these debates. Now, here's what's got to happen the next one, I think, leading up to Houston. They'd better start having some advisors say enough of the backfighting, enough of the going after each other up on the stage. Let's go after the Democrats. Let's go after the socialist Bernie Sanders. Let's destroy that concept. Or I think this next debate is going to be so critical, Jerry, that a Republican will not win the White House if they don't get their boat in order.
Well, they aren't even going after the Democrats in any way. That's just a love fest there.
Yeah.
I don't see anything critical, anything at all that's happening there. And on the other side, them guys are just making fools of themselves. It's just a disgrace.
Well, I agree with you. I was really...
To say, I just really wish to heck they just shut the debates up and let's just vote for John the Garbage Man or something and get it done.
Jerry, I like that. And by the way, your friendship is so appreciated. Thank you for your kind remarks, and it's good to hear from you, Jerry. Thank you very much.
Okay, you have a great day.
God bless you, my friend. Thanks. I agree with Jerry. I'm sick of it. I am absolutely sick of it. Yes, when a point is brought up about perhaps immigration, when a point is brought up about national security, when a point is brought up about our economy, when a point is brought up that needs to be arbitrated on as far as their stand on different issues, they could say, well, you stood up for this, and I agree, I think this is my stand on this, etc. You're going to have arguments during a debate. But the way that they acted like little kids on the playground, and I'm pointing my finger at Donald Trump and Jeb Bush and Cruz and some of the others, and also Marco Rubio. It's got to stop. All it is giving powder and lead to the Democratic Party or the left in general. Now, Donald Trump, in my opinion, hurt himself not only with what he said, but also with his expressions and body language. And I am really shocked and surprised, and Deanna and I talked about this the other night. I am really shocked and surprised that either a member of his family or one of his handlers that should be giving him advice on, well, you know, in a circumstance like this, don't frown. In a circumstance like this, don't roll your eyes. In a circumstance like this, don't jump in and say something like that. You would think that they would try to polish the man a little bit now after, 6-7 debates? And I thought that was as unpolished as I have seen and heard Trump and others. Your thoughts. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I'm waiting for your call that I just know is coming in, I've got that feeling. I want to tell you about the big Founders Celebration. You know, I got this copy before I left, and I shared it with Sharon and Gina. Mr. Les Schwab was a super individual. I am honored to say that I had a chance to meet the man up in Prineville, Oregon years ago, and he was just a phenomenal person. And the starting of his business, all the Les Schwab Tire Centers, absolutely phenomenal. And right now they're celebrating what they call the Founders Celebration in honor of Mr. Les Schwab, and they've got many, many of their top tires on sale prices that you can't afford to pass up, like the Backcountry AT, noise reduction, all-season traction tire. You check it out, and also all the brake service, all the front-end alignments, all the different services with the best in batteries, everything. They take care of you at all 7 locations. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley, in, of course, all of them members of the Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You stop in and see them today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, and welcome
welcome back.
Well, how are you? Is breakfast ready? I'll be right over.
I just finished. I'm sorry.
Okay. How are you, Chris?
No, I'm glad you're back. And when you were talking about the candidates and how they're acting, now then, I'm wishing that they would go behind stage and duke it out and then let the winner come out and carry on. Donald Trump has been really good for this contest to make people study up and get a little more backbone. But at this point in time, I think he is so sure that he's got the nomination that he is not showing any class. And I think that pretty quick, he's making the other candidates better candidates. But pretty quick, he's going to have to do something different, or he is not going to get the nomination.
Would you agree with me, Chris, what I said a moment ago, that some of his people, and there should be someone in his entourage, or a group of someone's, that should be taking him aside every day and saying, look, you need to polish this up a little bit, you need to change this, you need to say this differently. I saw a Donald Trump that was as rough-hewn as ever on that last debate, and I didn't like it.
No, I was hoping that the fact that he is such a powerful person and has a lot of influence, that maybe he would steer this election period into some real results. But now then, I think we're seeing a real Donald Trump who likes to win, he likes to be on top, and he likes to call the terms. But he has not ever worked with a Congress.
Yeah.
And the Congress is, I think they're getting their back up, and there are going to be so many divides amongst all of these people that our country will be in serious trouble, especially if he's elected.
Well, there's a lot of holes in the screen door, and I wish we had longer to talk this morning. I've got to get to the news. You've got to start calling in a little earlier because I value your opinion, Chris, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow. Give me a call a little earlier so we can share more time.
Bye-bye.
All right, God bless. I agree with her. I absolutely agree with her, and I think Donald Trump hurt himself in that debate immeasurably. We're going to take a little break, and we're going to send it back over for the CBS News. Old Wheels is going to punch the button, and then I'll be back in about 6 minutes. We've got Dan Kish with the American Energy Alliance, and then at 9:30, Kerry Kupek with the Alliance Defending Freedom. God bless. Good to be back and talk to you again. We'll see you in 6. Oh my, here we go, back to hour number 2. Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and our great friends, really dear friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
I'll tell you what, I'm really high on those folks. Kelly and the crew at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Locally owned and operated with the best of all the carts, the dumpsters, the roll-offs, the portable restrooms, and of course the route service to pick up your garbage. It's gone. It's out of there. They are always at your disposal. Call them today. Don't put it off. 734-6969. Western Waste Services. Really great folks. By the way, every morning at 8:06 when we start this program, we of course have our dear friends with Cheney Flooring and Home Design bring you the weather forecast, and of course for all your carpet and flooring, kitchen construction, home decor needs, whatever you need to make your house a home. You get a hold of Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, and look for the blue door. Really nice people. Real quick, too, I want to remind you that a little bit later on this morning, we're going to have the Alliance Defending Freedom with Kerry Kupek, and then at 10:06, our Idaho Legislative Update. Today was Senator Kelly Anthon, but right now let's go to the phone lines, and we've got a dear friend of mine on President's Day that he doesn't have to work, but he did this as kind of a favor, and I appreciate it. Dan Kish with the American Energy Alliance. How are you, my dear friend?
I'm well, Zeb, and I hope you are as well.
I got back from a 2-week gone vacation, and quite frankly, I'm well rested, but I got to figure out how to run the program again. You got to retrain me, Dan.
Well, I'm sure you'll do fine, Zeb, but I'm glad you got some time away.
I needed it badly, and I appreciate your kind remarks. Hey, listen, what is going on? The way I look at this Obama administration, and you tell me if you think I'm wrong, it's almost like Al Capone and the mobsters in Chicago. You're going to do it our way, or we're going to close you down. That's basically what Obama is telling the coal companies. That's basically what Obama is telling the electricity rates. I mean, it's going to be higher whether you like it or not. This is nothing more than mob warfare against coal companies, is it not?
Yeah, Zeb, but it's more than that. It's mob warfare against consumers in America. I mean, basically, you go back to what he said when he was running for president in 2008, that under his plan he wants to make electricity prices skyrocket, and that in order for his friends who make energy with wind and solar to make money, they have to basically break the back of the other sources of energy we have, including hydro, including nuclear, including coal and natural gas. That's basically the idea. You make the other stuff so much more expensive that people are compelled to buy the stuff that your friends make. Then your friends get rich, then they contribute money to your campaigns. It's that simple.
Yeah, but Dan, I guess I'm a real simple person when it comes to this. I don't like being forced or coerced or anything else into taking or accepting something that is going to cost me more money out of my pocket. I'm going to stand up and resist. Now, of our 50 states, do you mean to tell me that nobody's got any backbone anymore to stand up to this thuggery and say no?
No, gladly and thankfully, Zeb, some of the states have taken action. And, the fact of the matter is that the Supreme Court last week declared the current path, basically ordered them, gave them a stop work order on this thing. And now that's all kind of thrown into a cocked hat because of the unfortunate death of Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. But last week, the Supreme Court said this is in response to over 25 states, I think it was 27 states combined, and there are more states or parts of states, governments that have raised serious concerns about this. They said no, and for the first time ever, stopped a regulation before it could go forward and said that until we have a chance to review it, because we think it's highly possible that this is illegal, you're not going to be able to implement it. And so that basically threw a wrench into the works.
Where are the senators? Where are the congressmen on a national level? And then where are those same people representing their various states? We are being led by the nose away from a very reliable source of power for our electrical grids, very responsive, and like I said, reliable to the point where we know it's going to be there when we get up in the morning to turn the coffee maker on. And we're being led into a green energy mirage of phoniness that is not there, not proven, and Dan, I'll tell you what, I'm concerned. I think our whole country is being led into a third world type atmosphere by this Obama administration.
Zeb, you put your finger on it. Basically, this is the way Europe is headed. They're well ahead of us because, as a matter of fact, in Germany, they pay 3 times as much for their electricity as we do. Think about that. Take your electric bill, latest utility bill, open it, and for the same amount of electricity that you used, just triple your bill. That's exactly what the Germans are paying because their government went down this path a decade before our own did. And now they're having severe problems. They're beginning to lose jobs and lose their industries to other places because this is what happens. It's not just our personal bills. It's also the businesses that we both do business with and in many cases work for. If you drive up the cost of energy artificially by government diktat, you end up making people's lives more difficult, potentially costing them their jobs because it goes to a place where their politicians aren't as interested in driving up energy prices, and that's the problem. But it's all a fealty to the United Nations, and this administration's belief that somehow we're living too well. I remember the president talking about how people shouldn't be able to turn their thermostats to whatever they want them. Well, this is a free country. We're free citizens. If it's your money, you ought to be able to use it.
Yeah. Dan, I would really appreciate it if you, for the benefit of my audience and also my own education, kind of elaborate a little bit more about this Supreme Court ruling. Now, I know that with the passing of a great conservative judge and lawyer and understanding man of the Constitution, Antonin Scalia, we're going to really see some changes. But what about this Supreme Court decision? What really is happening here with this clean power plan?
Yeah, well, what happens, Zeb, is the administration via the EPA had ordered that the clean power plan, that the states basically put together plans that reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the air coming from their power generation sources, and that they get right to it and come up with plans. And the EPA would have to sign off on those plans by a date certain, by 2020, which in the terms of making decisions about power plants is very rapid because, it takes years just to build a plant. The Supreme Court said last week, we don't think you're interpreting the law properly. We are ordering a stay, which in other words stops everything from going forward. Mm-hmm. They can't order the states to do this, and that a lower court, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, and I don't want to get too technical here, but that the Court of Appeals would have to make while they were looking at the laws, because the states had objected to them, while they were reviewing the law, no decisions could be made going forward, and therefore states are free not to live by the calendar. Mm-hmm. They also ordered that they would have to review the decision by the lower court, and that gave people a lot of hope who are worried about higher electricity prices, gave a lot of people like that hope that they felt it was already bad, and that it's likely that if the lower court actually went along with Washington, which seems to be the case nowadays, the Supreme Court would overrule them. That was all good news up until the announcement of the death of Antonin Scalia, which puts the court in a 4-4 tie, possibly through the election. And that means that lower court, if those Washington, D.C. judges rule in favor of the EPA, there will be a standstill at the Supreme Court. So it's all up in the air, but just what the most important thing that your people should know is that the Supreme Court basically declared illegal the actions of the EPA and the Obama administration with respect to their higher electricity plan.
Right. Now, Dan, let me ask you this. I was deeply saddened to hear about Justice Scalia. But now, with a 4-4 split on the Supreme Court, how long would it take, even with the appointment of another justice, be it of liberal or conservative stance, how long would it take for this subject matter to be brought back and have a review by the Supreme Court? It could take as many as 8 months to a year, couldn't it?
Correct. The D.C. court that I talked about that the Supreme Court put a hold on. The Supreme Court had some questions about the lower court. And because what's happened, and people may or may not remember this, but a couple of years ago, when Harry Reid ran the Senate, he changed the rules of the Senate to allow them to pack the court in Washington, D.C. Used to be that this didn't happen, but he was able to pack the court with a bunch of Obama nominees. And that court, which used to be fairly restrictive in trying to keep the limits on the federal government, has been transformed and is now full of judges who look for the expansion by the government at all times.
Right.
And the consequences of that are that the Supreme Court said, okay, we're not going to put up with this anymore. And that court, the lower court, is going to hear this case sometime this coming summer.
Okay.
And then the Supreme Court will have to review it, but it'll be hard for them to review it with the passing of Justice Scalia.
Let me ask you this, Dan, and this is speculation, but you're a sharp guy. What are you hearing right now this morning, even though it's President's Day, about Obama and possible appointments? I mean, have you heard any names mentioned? Have you heard any scare stories? What's going on back there in your country?
Well, this is a chance. I mean, it wouldn't surprise any of your listeners or you to know that the president sees this as his once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to change the nature of the Supreme Court for decades, and that he's going to try his best to do it. And right now it's going to be a huge battle because in the past 80 years, it's not been customary for a president in an election year to nominate a Supreme Court justice and have him confirmed or her confirmed in the final year. There have been some where it was the end of the year before the presidential election year, and they got finalized in the election year. But the actual nomination and finalization, confirmation in that year just didn't happen. And so this would be, so in other words, what the president wants to do is break the precedent that's been in place for 80 years and put his person in there so that decisions go his way, because the Supreme Court has been fairly evenly split. And to the extent that you need 5 justices to prevail. There are 9 justices, and typically what's happened is you have someone in the middle who flip-flops back and forth.
Right.
And there was no question that Justice Scalia was one of those who believed that they should be interpreting the law based upon the framers' intent, rather than some modern remake of a living, breathing Constitution, which is the progressives, which is another word of saying liberal, would like it to be, as though the laws just change with the times and whoever's got the votes wins.
You're right. Now, Dan, I got to tell you, I was gone for 2 weeks, and I was in an area, excuse me, I was in an area where travel and tourist traffic is absolutely a necessity for these people to make a living. Of all the people I talked to bankers, I talked to realtors, I talked to many people of different walks of life. All of them, to a person, said this year has been a banner year because of lower energy prices, lower gasoline, more travel, more motels, more eating out at restaurants, etc. It's been a boon, and the money is turning over in their local economy. It's going to be one of the best years they've ever had. Now take that and multiply it by our 50 states, and you would think our politicians can realize the value of lower cost energy.
Well, you're right, Seth. I mean, the truth of the matter is this isn't complicated. You don't have to have a PhD in this stuff. You don't have to be just some common sense, which seems to be the thing most in shortage in Washington, D.C. The truth of the matter is that if energy is cheaper, people will use it more, and when they're using it for leisure, that means they'll buy more leisure. When they're using it for making things, or growing things or transporting things, they'll use more, and that makes the economy grow. Cheap energy is a great thing. It's a blessing. God bless this country with enormous resources, and the only thing between the American public and using those cheap resources to make life better for all of us and to grow our economy is the government, is the nitwits here in Washington, D.C.
You know, I got to ask you this last thought, Dan, and I mentioned this the last time you were on the air. Kind of look into your crystal ball. What insidious method or means do you see this president, along with McCarthy and the EPA, really going after these lower prices for a stoppage, a control, a possible tax? What do you see happening here before this man leaves office?
Yeah, well, the president's already proposed, he did this last week as well, the president proposed a $10.25 per barrel tax on oil, which would translate to another quarter on the price of gasoline, and he's hoping that somehow he could slip that by when prices were low and go forward. That's dead. Congress isn't going to give that to them. The last thing Americans need right now or want right now is just about the time they're beginning to feel as though maybe they can fill up their tanks instead of and use the money they save for other things. So that's not going forward. But Gina McCarthy has announced that she's not slowing down at all. As a matter of fact, they were almost defiant against the Supreme Court, as they typically are. When they're slapped down, they don't, and what they've been doing has been declared illegal. Their response is to claim some higher force at work. In this particular case, they said that, well, a stay can't stop the climate change. A stay can't stop global warming. As to make fun of, the highest court in the land. So these are the types of people that we're living with and working with, and who unfortunately have the reins of power right now. They're going to try their best to follow through on their agenda, because to them, it's almost like religion, Zeb.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting, Dan, final thought here, and then I've got to let you go, but of all the people I talk to, and I talk to people from Pennsylvania, people from Ohio, people from Florida, people from Texas, of all the people I talked to over the last 2 weeks, I never found one person, not one, that was a disciple of climate change and controlling of the climate change by man and this administration. What I found, Dan, was outrage against politicians in general.
Well, I'm afraid people are going to look back, and we're seeing it right now in the election. I think what's happened is people, the president's abuse of power and the people who work for him, their abuse of power and their seeming indifference to the opinion of the American public, for whom they're supposed to work, has created a rift. Added to that, the feeling that Congress itself isn't doing anything about it to stop him, has generated a huge amount of disrespect and put politicians in Washington, D.C. and other places in disrepute. And our only hope is that this election will somehow sort that out, and that maybe some of these politicians will get the lesson that the first and foremost are the interests of the people, and the last thing they need is some European-style approach to turning over control of our economy to the United Nations based upon some global warming theory that doesn't appear to be following their suggestions anyway, Zeb. So hope springs eternal, and And per usual, things are goofed up back here in Washington, D.C.
Amen. I want you to have a very special day. A dear friend with the American Energy Alliance. I can always rely on him for a great conversation. Dan Kish, God bless you, man. Thanks so much.
God bless you, Zeb. God bless your audience, and thank you, sir.
All right, sir. Thanks, Dan Kish. Appreciate it. That man knows all about energy, and I'm very blessed to have him as part of my stable of really good, smart people on this program, and I thank him very much. On a holiday where he didn't have to come on the air, but he did it as a favor to me, and I appreciate it. Thanks, Dan Kish. Hey, by the way, don't forget our dear friends at Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Joel Heward, the manager, his family, the staff, always with flexible hours to be there when you need them. You know, there is nothing worse than feeling so alone and so absolutely unknowledgeable as to what to do when there's a passing of a loved one, and they can and they will help, always with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. Please call them today, 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary in Rupert. There when you need them. Absolutely. Thank you. By the way, too, also, don't forget our friends at Let's Ride. Hello, Let's Ride. My goodness sakes, they've got a variety of motorcycles and motorcycle accessories, and they've been in the business since 2001. Man, do they know. They've got a great friendly staff over there at Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the world, where the fun is sold. I bought my ATVs from them, and I'll guarantee you they know what's going to best befit you. You stop over and see them today, and get out and enjoy life. Get out and enjoy Southern Idaho. Get out and enjoy the world where the fun is sold. Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24. You stop over and see them today. Oh, my goodness sakes, in just a few minutes, we're going to have a lovely lady on the phone with me, and that's Carrie Kupek with the Alliance Defending Freedom. Stand by for that. I want to remind you again, later on this morning at 10:30, I'm going to have my dear friend, former Representative Bert Stevenson on the air. We're going to be talking a little bit about the water situation here in Idaho, and also the Minnecasia Lincoln Day banquet that is going to be coming up this coming Saturday, February 20th. The meet and greet starts at 12:30 p.m. with lunch at 1:30 p.m., and then the auction will take place after that. It's going to be at Maury's Steakhouse Event Center this coming Saturday, and I believe they'll have tickets at the doors, so you try to be there, all right? We'll see you there next Saturday. By the way, too, our thanks go out to Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Hello, Todd. How you doing over there? Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits. They absolutely know all about insurance, and they're devoted and accessible to helping you. All you have to do is call them for an appointment today at 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Lovely lady on the phone with us, and I mean that seriously. She is such a friendly person and so helpful with the Alliance Defending Freedom. Hello to Carrie Kupek. How are you, Carrie?
Doing well, Zeb. Good morning.
It is nice to hear from you. I took a little vacation, and I'm glad to be back here in the saddle.
Yeah, that's great. I heard you had a good time in Arizona.
We did have a good time, Carrie, but now it's time to get back to work, and unfortunately, one of the topics that I wanted to talk to you about this morning deals with the passing of a great man. I really enjoyed reading his dictates. I enjoyed his personality, and that was, of course, Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. What are your thoughts about the passing of this man?
Well, it's really a sad day for us and really for all Americans. Justice Scalia was the most vocal and passionate voice in the Supreme Court for religious freedom, the sanctity of life, and marriage and family over the past 3 decades. And so this is really a loss for this country and all those who revere ordered liberty and those who respect our Constitution, because as you and I both know, Justice Scalia was an ardent defender of the Constitution. He loved that document, and he was always doing his best to stick as closely as he could to it and defend it and make sure the truth of the Constitution and the system that it laid out for all of us was being implemented in his decisions, in the decisions of the Supreme Court.
You know, let me ask you this, Carrie, and this is speculative as far as your answer is concerned, because we don't know what's going to happen. But when you take a strong figurehead of the Supreme Court like Justice Scalia, who stood up for, like you said, life and marriage and families, and then you have a court now split 4-4, and the Obama administration with their leftist ideology and trying to find somebody to put on the court with that ideology, I'm a little bit more than worried right now. How about you?
Yeah, it's concerning for sure. It's really important that this next justice be filled when the next president fills office. It's important to let the people's voice be heard in that, and really have an opportunity to decide, for them to decide who should be on the Supreme Court, especially with, like you said, when Justice Scalia's voice and vote plays such a key role in the decisions of the Supreme Court. And let's not forget, Hillary Clinton, she said that the decision in which Justice Scalia was a part of, and that was a 5-4 majority with the partial birth abortion issue, she said that they were wrong to let states ban partial birth abortion, and that would be her litmus test for Supreme Court justice nominees. And that's Hillary Clinton's own words. Mm-hmm. And she said, and she also said something to the effect of, once we change Justice Scalia's vote, the gun confiscation program is something worth looking at. So these are very extreme positions, very extreme standpoints, and certainly we would want a president to appoint someone who is committed to defending the Constitution, not committed to pushing through an extreme radical agenda.
Carrie, with all the lawyers and the people you work with, the Alliance is Defending Freedom, do you think, honestly, that the American public is aware today, as they should be, as to how serious this situation is?
I think it's it's hard to say. I think that the news of Justice Scalia has certainly gained enough traction in the media world and on the newspapers. He's been on the front page of our newspaper. But yeah, it's very important for Americans to understand what this is about. This is a very, very big deal. And Justice Scalia's death, it really injects a unique opportunity to debate the role of the Constitution and the court into our conversations, into the presidential debates, so that the American people understand what is exactly at stake. And certainly that opportunity would be squandered if the outgoing President Obama selects and the Senate confirmed his choice. So there really is a lot at stake. Obviously the court reflected the great cultural division of our nation. It could swing certain votes another way that would be really problematic for the future of freedom of speech, freedom of religious freedom. And so it's really important for Americans to realize that the role of the Supreme Court justice just cannot be underestimated.
Absolutely.
It's quite unbelievable. And it's quite important for us to have justices that are committed to upholding the Constitution, which is the supreme law of our land.
Absolutely. Very well stated. This next story that I want to get into is a story about Ralph's Thriftway, a store in Washington State. And I got to tell you, when I read this story, I was absolutely incensed, mad, if you will, about how private enterprise is being dictated to and told what they can or cannot do. Give us the background about what happened with the Storman family.
Storman Pharmacy is a family-owned pharmacy and grocery store out in Olympia, Washington, that has been owned by the Stormans for over 3 decades. It's a small family business, well-loved in its community, and about a little bit over 10 years ago, unfortunately, the governor of Washington, the former governor, and Planned Parenthood teamed up and decided that people of faith and people of conscience could no longer refer based on conscience. Now, there's standard practice for pharmacies and pharmacists to refer for all kinds of reasons. Financial reasons, they sometimes can't stock and dispense drugs because of financial reasons. And in 49 states in this country, healthcare professionals, pharmacies, pharmacists can refer on the basis of conscience. Well, this governor and Planned Parenthood decided, nope, not in Washington State anymore. We want to force pharmacies and pharmacists to stock and dispense Plan B, the morning after pill, and Ella, the week after pill, which is obviously a life-ending drug. And the Stormans didn't want to do that. Like I said, they're Christians. They believe in the sanctity of life. They believe that life begins at conception, and to stock and dispense these drugs would be a complete violation of who they are and a complete violation of their conscience. Well, the governor and Planned Parenthood didn't care about that, and they threatened the pharmacy board in Washington State to support this law. In fact, they threatened members of the board with personal lawsuits if they did not push this agenda through. That board actually stood firm. They unanimously rejected what the governor was demanding, and then when their time was up and they were up for re-election, the governor appointed people who he knew would pass through this very radical agenda. And the Stormans have been fighting this ever since. And we are now at the Supreme Court. We've asked the Supreme Court to take a look at this because no American should be forced by the government to participate in the stocking and dispensing of life-ending drugs and devices that completely violate their conscience and who they are.
You know, Carrie, and I don't mean to put this in simplistic terms, but I think it's a good analogy. Here we are told that Ralph's Thriftway with the Storman family, they must carry different goods and services. They must. The government's telling them they must. And that's against their ideology and that's against their religion. On the other hand, though, Carrie, what would be the difference of a store being told, well, you only have Wranglers and you must sell also Levi's? It comes down to the point where government is making the dictates as to what a business can or cannot sell, and I find that totally apprehensible.
Right, it's a complete overreach and a certainly concerning one. You're exactly right. Regardless of how you feel about the issue of, say, life, why in the world is the government involving itself in very small details of what a small business should stock and not, especially when there are numerous reasons why stores and pharmacies can and cannot stock certain items. There's so many things. Any small business owner would tell you that. Sometimes they can't afford it. Sometimes it's not available. Sometimes the demand is that low that it would be really a waste of their money to stock that. So it is an unbelievable amount of government overreach, and it's interesting. Just recently, a large amount of the healthcare community has come out, and supported the Stormans. In fact, they really always have. All the steps of the way of this litigation process, they have had support of so many pharmacy associations, including the largest, which is the American Pharmacists Association. They've had the support of so many healthcare professionals, and just at the Supreme Court, a couple of weeks ago, you had 13 state attorney generals, you had 29 quite notable legal scholars, you had more than 4,600 individual healthcare professionals, 38 professional pharmacy associations, including, like I said, the nation's largest, which is the American Pharmacists Association. You had 43 members of Congress, all who are saying to the state of Washington, look, this can't go on. This is such coercion. This is so concerning, and this really jeopardizes the freedom of conscience for all pharmacists and all healthcare professionals.
It's not only the freedom of conscience. As I look down the road at this thing with a flashlight into the darkness for the future, I see it as another attack on Christian values and principles trying to be stomped on and thrown away. Don't you agree?
Yeah, and it just makes no sense. This is the only state in the country that says you can't refer on the basis of conscience, that a pharmacy and a pharmacist cannot refer because of conscience. All 49 remaining states say, yes, you can. On top of that, within a 5-mile radius of Ralph's Thriftway, there are over 30 pharmacies that distribute Ella and Plan B, the two drugs that are in question. So there's no access issue. And then when you have all of the pharmacy associations, the nation's largest, you have all of these healthcare professionals saying, no, we can't do this. This is bad. Clearly, this goes far beyond even, the freedom of religion and freedom of conscience, this defies common sense. It defies logic. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm hopeful that the Supreme Court will take it up, because what's interesting is that if this law is allowed to stay on the books, it will actually be the first time in our nation's history that healthcare professionals will be forced to participate in what they believe to be an abortion.
Very interesting case. All right, before time runs out, tell us a little bit about what's happening in Texas with abortionists filing suit against the state women's safety law. Explain that a little bit, please.
Sure. This is a law in Texas. It's called HB2, and basically all it is, it requires abortion facilities to meet the same health and safety standards as ambulatory surgical centers, so outpatient surgery centers, and requires doctors performing abortions to have admitting privileges at a local hospital in the event a woman has to seek hospital care due to some kind of complication because of the abortion. This is a no-brainer. Certainly women who are going in for any kind of surgery deserve to know that that surgery is going to be performed safely and in a clean environment. That's all this is. And it's been affirmed at both lower courts at this point. They've all said, yes, this law makes sense. This is a protective measure. This helps women. It certainly doesn't harm women. But the pro-abortion activists have been, quite frankly, going crazy over this common sense bill. And now it is actually before the Supreme Court as to whether it is okay or not, if this is a lawful bill. And it will be argued on March 2nd before the Supreme Court.
Well, I'm glad to hear that it's going to be in front of the Supreme Court, because when I read this, the idiocy and incompetency of the pro-abortionists, it almost seems like they want the dark alley with the coat hanger attitude, and I just don't understand why they can't stand up and support for women's health.
Well, that's what I don't understand either. I've even said what these pro-abortion activists are basically advocating for is a back alley with a door and a clinic sign.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is about making abortions safe, and obviously I am completely opposed to abortion, and we are, but certainly if these women are going into these facilities shouldn't have a free pass when it comes to the health and safety regulations. So it's not about making abortion safe. It's making sure that these abortion facilities are not getting a free pass when it comes to the health and safety regulations that all other similar outpatient surgery centers are required to adhere to.
Well, I just want to say thank you for the wonderful job that you do, and it's such a treat to hear your voice on the airwaves again. Carrie Kupek, the Legal Communications Director for the Alliance Defending Freedom, and I always look forward to Monday because you are a great guest with all the information. Carrie, God bless, and thank you much. We'll see you next Monday.
See you next Monday.
Take care. Thank you. Very knowledgeable young lady, and always able to describe what's going on against Christianity in this country, quite frankly. And I appreciate her very much on behalf of the Alliance Defending Freedom. Thank you very much. We've got to get the weather on here real quick. And here's Gina with this hour's weather update. Go ahead, Gina, please.
Here's your weather forecast for this Monday, February 15th, and President's Day. Looks like partly to mostly cloudy skies. It is going to be windy for today, so we are in a wind advisory through this afternoon. Out of the west, 20 to 25 miles an hour, gusts possible above that. High at 53, tonight low of 34. Tomorrow, winds dying down out of the southwest, right around 8 miles an hour. Going to have partly cloudy skies, high close to 60. 57 is what they're calling for with an overnight low of 33. Mostly cloudy and 56 for Wednesday. Rain showers and more wind expected, possibly out of the southwest up to 30 miles an hour. High of 45 for Thursday, overnight low of 31. Then for Friday, looking at partly cloudy skies, again high of 50. Yesterday's high was 44 and the overnight low was 35. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
I appreciate it, Gina. Thank you very much, Josh. job well done. You know what? I would like you out there in the audience to give me a call, and for the next, let's say 11 or 12 minutes, we'll discuss any topic in the news that you want to talk about. Now, I'm sure that while I was gone, there were some stories, whether it's on a local basis, a state basis, or a national basis, that maybe you'd like to talk a little bit about this morning in the time remaining. So give me a call at 436-2244 or 1-866-927-4587. Anything and everything, it's fair game right now. Give me a call, and we'll get you on the air and talk about it. And again, I want to issue a thank you while I'm waiting for your calls that I know are coming in. I want to issue a thank you to Sharon Hardy Mills and also Gina Jameson. They did an outstanding job, according to everybody that's called me, and ran the programs for us while we were gone. And also one guy that never gets, I think, the thank yous or the praise, and that's old Wheels over at the studio. By the way, let's get him on the mic for a minute. Wheels, how are you?
I'm great, sir. How are you? I'm
good. I got to tell you that we enjoyed temperatures in the mid to higher 80s while we were gone.
Oh my, I'm really jealous. Actually, that'd be really nice right now. I'm kind of not a fan of the cold.
Oh, I'm not a fan of it either. It was really tough to come back. But to you and Gina and, of course, Sharon, thank you so much for all your help while I was on the road. I appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome, sir. It went great. You know, we got quite a few calls, in, like I told you this morning before we came on. And,
yep.
It was just a great time. We all talked and, all gave our opinions. And, it was just really relaxing. And we also knew that, you and your wife were having a good time, and it was nice to hear, from you when you called in that day.
Well, I appreciate that, and we did enjoy a respite, if you will, from the everyday grind, and thank you very much. And by the way, I hope you had a good Valentine's Day yesterday.
Yes, it was very fun. I also spent some time with my family, especially my mom, and we just kind of hung out. I talked to her about some few things, and, I kind of got her a little something for her birthday and for her Valentine's, so it was a good day.
Now, her birthday is also this month?
It was February 2nd.
Well, see, Deanne is celebrating kind of a double whammy this week. Yesterday was Valentine's Day, and this coming Thursday, the 18th, is her birthday.
Oh, shoot. So did you get her a big old bouquet of flowers and some candy and everything?
Not yet. But I'm working on it, I promise. Hey, Wheels, thanks so much, buddy. I appreciate it. Sir. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. We'll talk about any and all subjects you want. For the remainder of this hour, give us a jingle. While I'm waiting for your phone call, I also want to remind you about Red's Trading Post. Great people. Ryan and the rest of the crew at 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. And a great selection of firearms, whether it's Browning, Beretta, Weatherby, Ruger, Benelli, Smith & Wesson, Winchester, and all the ammo and all the accessories. They've got all the sights and the optics. They've got all the knives. They've got all the reloading and gun cleaning kits. They've got it all for you at Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Caller, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. What can I do for you this morning?
Okay, I just want to comment a little bit about Donald Trump's attitude and behavior.
Okay.
Every time somebody gets close to him, he suddenly turns on them. When they've got 2%, 3% of the votes, whatever, he's like, oh, they're the best, they're wonderful, yay, yay, yay. And then if anybody gets close to him, he turns into a spoiled, rotten brat.
I am not going to argue.
Liar and worse, and,
Let me just jump in here, and then I want to see how you're going to respond to how I'll answer your statement. I agreed with you. In last hour, I said that I thought this last debate was maybe the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of people thinking that they wanted Trump as president. I thought he hurt himself immensely with his assault on the Bush family and primarily George Bush for 9/11. Trump with his body language, Trump with his speech patterns, kind of a rough-hewn character personality. I would have thought by now, going into the seventh debate, that the handlers of his campaign would have warned him how to polish himself and make him look more presentable. What are your thoughts about what I just said?
Exactly. You know, I don't think I've ever seen that man smile. He looks like a grumpy all the time, and he just, you know, and he acts like a spoiled brat.
You know, let's do this, though, my dear friend. Let's also say that in fairness to Donald Trump and Ben Carson and Carly Fiorina, those people without the political savvy and the political know-how, they did stand the establishment politicians on their butts because, quite frankly, they were bringing up issues and enjoying a public that was absolutely supportive of them. And I do give Donald Trump credit for that. However, the way he has handled himself recently, he has turned me away from his presidency.
Yeah, I don't like the way he, you know, he wants to be the best, and he wants to be on top, and he doesn't care who he steps on. As long as you're at the bottom, you're okay, because I'm stepping on you, but I'm not going to verbally do it. But as soon as they get anywhere close to him, and you know, he just gets nasty because Ben Carson, he's a great doctor, he's a good surgeon, and then when Ben Carson got close to him, man, he doesn't know he's a scalpel from a, you know, whatever.
Yeah, but let me put you on the spot here for a minute and ask you this. Of the remaining candidates that are the most viable for the Republican Party, who then, in your opinion, would you really get behind and push to take on whoever's going to run for the Democrats? Who do you think should be the Republican nominee?
At this point in time, with the ones that I would say Cruz, because he told his Texas constituents, I'm going to go there and I'm going to do it, and if Washington doesn't like what I do, you told me what I needed to do, and I'm going to try and do everything in my power to do what you asked me to do. And he's the only person in Washington who listens to the people at home, as far as I'm concerned.
You know, now, ma'am, I don't know who you are, but I tell you what, I have a lot of respect for what you just said because I agree with you. I am sick and tired of hearing some of the others, and the others would be Jeb Bush. The others would be, at the time he was still in the race, Chris Christie and others, that were condemning Cruz for not being well liked by his peers. I don't care if the guy's liked at all in the Senate. I really don't care. I want somebody that's going to work for me, and quite frankly, I agree with what you said.
Yeah, I mean, the ones that are liked by their peers are the ones that are rolling over and saying, oh, yeah, if you back my bill, I'll back your bill. I don't really believe in your bill, but I'll back it because you backed mine.
Right. But now, before I let you go, I got to ask you on the other side of the coin, it's almost laughable that the Democrats could be backing the likes of Bernie Sanders and his socialism/communism, and also the crookedness, the fraudulent activities, and the absolute waste of time on Hillary. What are your thoughts on those two?
Yeah. Exactly. And I have heard a lot of the politicians say what they're going to, you know, how they're going to do it. I mean, Donald Trump says, I'm going to make America great. I'm going to. How? I keep saying how. Tell me how. I want to know how. I've yet to hear him tell me how.
You know, I think there's three basic things. Number one, we need national security. We need somebody that's going to be a tough guy in office. And number two, we need somebody that's going to steer the economy. And number three, we need somebody that's going to adhere to the constitutional values of our country. Would you agree with that?
We do.
Amen. God bless you for your call. Thank you so much.
One more quick thought.
Yes, ma'am.
Lady Gaga thing.
Yes.
I saw on Facebook, they asked her how she performed the way she did, and she says, I love my country. And I thought about the sacrifices made.
Amen. Thank you so much. God bless you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead quickly. I only got a minute left.
Unfortunately, Zeb, I was going to ask your guest a question, and you let him go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's going to be quick, but that's all right.
Well, do you have a point of interest that you want to bring up real fast? I got about 30 seconds left.
If not Cruz, then who's your number 2?
My number 2, I would have to say at this juncture, it would have to be Rubio. And I'm not falling in lockstep. I'm going in accordance with who I think can beat the liberal left. I think Ted Cruz, in a debate with Hillary, it would be Custer's last stand. Cruz would emerge victorious. Hillary would be left in a blubbering attitude with no answers.
Okay, thanks.
All right, have a good day. Thank you very much. I've got to run to the news. I don't, personally, but Wheels is going to run us to the news from CBS. And then coming up next hour, here's what we've got. We've got the Idaho Legislative Update, and a great guy, Senator Kelly Anthon, is going to be on the air with us. I'm looking forward to that. And then at 10:30 this morning, one of my dearest friends, and I mean that, Representative Bert Stevenson is going to be on the program, and I'll look forward to that. So we're going to turn it over to the news in just a moment. You're listening to Zeb at the Ranch. Make sure you're hearing everything. Contact Mount Harrison Audiology for a hearing screening today. Call them at 312-0957. Now the news from CBS. Oh, my goodness sakes, welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch on a Monday, and it's taken me a little bit of time this morning to get back into the groove, if you will, after being gone for a couple of weeks. Thank you so much. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call, get on the route service today, 734-6969. Right now, I also want to remind you that we have a segment called Cassia County School Days on Thursdays, and it's brought to you by A Child's World and Ambulatory Surgery Center, 2 great sponsors. Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley, and they've got their great big birthday sale going on. Oh my goodness, furniture like cribs and changers and chest of drawers and clothing and everything else. You better get into A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. And don't forget the Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland in Burley, and outpatient surgery where you can save hundreds of dollars. Please give them a call today and find out more. 677-8888. That number again, 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County on Thursdays. Right now it's time for one of my favorite segments, and also for one of my favorite people to be on that segment. It's time for the Idaho Legislative Update, and live from Boise at our great big legislative session, Senator Kelly Anthon. Good morning, Kelly. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb, and good morning to your listeners. Thanks for having me.
No, my pleasure. You know, I want to compliment you on something that it means a lot to me as a broadcaster and as a talk show owner and host. You are always so prepared, and you are always aware of when you're going to be on, what's going to happen, and that type of thing. Kudos to you, sir. I appreciate that.
Well, thanks, Zeb. I appreciate the opportunity to come on. It's pretty valuable to me.
Okay, now, we are looking at about the third week or so of the session, and things are shaping up. Some things are being put away. Some things have already been settled. What's going on that really are the hot buttons that you want to talk about this morning?
Sure, Zeb. If you remember, I think the last time I called on, we were talking about the rule review, and that's where the legislature takes administrative rules, so the agencies of various types, Department of Commerce, Department of Ag, create rules, and the legislature reviews those to make sure that they haven't done anything that we don't like. And
right.
That process is, for the most part, now concluded, and we're beginning to now see a lot of the new ideas about legislation, new bills, and new what they call RSs coming before committees. The hot issues, of course, Zeb, are going to continue to be water. And, of course, our Speaker, Scott Bedke, has been chasing that issue for many years. And I think we're going to see some movement on funding for the recharge. And that's, of course, a real key component in a settlement between the surface water users, our farmers that use surface water, and those that use the groundwater. It's going to be a historic thing. I think that's coming around and continues to be worked on. Now, I think a lot of that, of course, is taking place in the House. But we will see that in the next month or so come forward.
Let me ask you this, Kelly. Is it a solvable problem at this legislative session? Water and issues with water, all the different tributaries, if you will, and problems, can they be solved this session, or is it something that's going to elongate itself for years to come?
Zeb, this is something that's going to be with us for many, many years. I think what we will see is a historic move by the legislature to fix some things that need to be fixing, and primarily what that is that we have an aquifer that, as we've measured it historically, is going into the red. We're taking out more water than goes in, and it's just not sustainable. And what that means in a court setting is that if the senior water rights wanted to, they could conceivably turn off hundreds of thousands of acres of our farmland in the in the Magic Valley in the eastern Snake River Plain. Mm-hmm. And that, of course, would absolutely devastate the economy of the state of Idaho. And the fact is that the state has over-appropriated. We've given too many water rights out. And if you want to get into that, there's lots of reasons for that, but nonetheless, that's the case. So I feel good about the fact that the state legislature is stepping up to this issue. One of the things you have to remember, of course, is that there are a good host of legislators who do not live in the eastern Snake River Plain.
Right.
And those from northern Idaho and those from the Treasure Valley, and I mean this in the kindest way, they have to be educated about some of the water issues that we face on a daily basis in the Magic Valley area.
I agree with you.
There's been that obstacle, but I think that I have a very good sense that those who are in positions of power inside the legislature are getting it. They understand how important it is that we solve these water problems in Magic Valley.
And I was reading an article in the paper this weekend by a gentleman that I'll say up front I do not like, I have never cared for because of his attitude against agriculture, and that's John Marvel, formerly with the Western Watersheds Project, and he was trying to lay all the costs and everything of the recharge back onto agriculture per se, all by themselves. And Kelly, you've stated it already in your past programs and here this morning. Everybody benefits from a recharge, especially the communities that want to stay in effect and stay in function, or we're all going to go broke.
There's no doubt about it. And it's not, and when you say all, I think you're talking about the whole state of Idaho. Because I recognize there are people in the Treasure Valley who don't understand agriculture and who don't appreciate it the same way that you and I do. But it's their bread and butter. And the fact is that it's the heart and the soul of our economy, and if we don't do what we need to do to protect it, we're all going to suffer. Now, you said something, though, that's important, and that is we can talk all day about how it should be the burden of our agriculture producers. But the fact of the matter is it's the state of Idaho who over-appropriated.
Yep.
I think it's not really wise or, I want to say honest, to say that it's all their fault. I think that the state of Idaho has to step in and be a partner in the solution and to keep the economy viable.
Absolutely, and very well stated. Along with water, and I know we're at a time constraint here this morning, but what are some of the other issues that you wanted to highlight this morning that we can touch on quickly?
Sure, Zeb. I'll tell you you're going to see if you're watching the legislature. We're going to see the budget start to take form. Now, the budget, of course, in recent years, if you look back to 2008, has been pretty ugly at times with the recession that came into the United States. What we saw last year was actually a surplus. So I'm talking 2015 budget, which ended in July 2015. And there was over $108 million of surplus there. Now, last year, the legislature decided already that $108 million would go certain places. Mm-hmm. So 50% of it, or about $54 million, it's a little more than that, is going to go to our rainy day savings fund, our savings. The other $54 million will go to, they call it Strategic Initiative Program Fund, but that's basically transportation funding. I think that we as a state, as a people, ought to really be thinking about this concept of the rainy day fund. Now, I know you've got a lot of good listeners that are very smart. Here's what the question I would ask, Zeb. If you're running a multi-billion with a B business, million-dollar business, billion-dollar business, what amount of savings do you think you ought to have in the bank for contingencies? I don't know the answer to that, but it's just a question to have your listeners think about. Because in my mind, even as I run a city government or I look at the state government, I think it's wise to have some savings in the bank. Maybe an illustration of this is that last year, the fires in northern Idaho, we now look at a bill that's in excess of $60 million. And so you have to have in your budget and in your finances, just like you would for your family, a certain amount of expectation that things don't always go right.
Absolutely.
And there should be some money set aside. So I say all this because as I look at the budget and as I see it taking form, I'm going to continually be asking myself, are we saving enough? When we went through the recession, we did not have enough savings, and we had to slash and burn to a certain extent. So that's one issue, Zeb. I'm really focused on this week. You're going to see, as usual, this is no surprise, that there's always more ask than there is money.
Mm-hmm.
People want more to spend than we have to spend. And unfortunately, we're not the federal government. We just go ahead and spend it anyway. We actually try to balance the budget here. So the budget's shaping up, Zeb. Kind of a key issue there is going to be education. More money for education, scholarships, kind of a wide range of programs, including something called tuition lock. And the governor has proposed that we start to look at tuition lock so that when our freshmen enter college, they will be able to know what their college tuition will cost throughout their entire 4-year program.
Right.
And so there are some benefits to that, but the finances of that are tricky because what we have to do as a state is also anticipate that costs will go up regardless, and then how are we going to balance all that out? So that's a real hot issue here this week as well, Zeb.
Let me interrupt you for a second, Kelly, and I don't mean to do that, but I want to go back to a point you made just a moment ago about the rainy day or the slush fund account for the state of Idaho. Who in their right mind as a legislator would be against that rainy day fund or that slush account for emergencies? Surely there can't be anybody that would speak against it, is there?
I don't think anybody would say they're against having a rainy day account. But when you get down to the dollars and cents of it, there's going to be a certain level of disagreement about that. I think from an operational standpoint, Zeb, if you think about it from a business sense, I think even as a local government sense, just think about it. If the money stopped rolling in, how long would we want to have enough money to operate on in the bank?
Right.
If you're a farmer, if your crops didn't come in on time, your check didn't come in on time, how many months could you go? I think at the very least, an operation needs to have a 3-month operating.
Absolutely.
In the bank. I think about this for the city of Rupert, some of our local governments. If revenue stopped coming in, we've still got to pay people to keep the lights on and the toilets running and the water going.
That's right.
The garbage picked up. And they have to be paid. And so, Zeb, to answer your question, I don't think anybody would oppose it. But there's a certain comfort level with some legislators that the money's always going to be here. And I think that we've seen in the last few years that that's not always the case.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And it's funny that you'd say 3 months, because I think that is a bare bones minimum, not only for state government, but also for all of us, for a contingency fund, if we can afford it, if we can save for it, if we can put it out of use, 3 months minimum, whether it's a household account, a farm account, whatever, but especially for a state budget.
Yes, I agree. I was taught as a young man that it doesn't hurt to think of 10% of your income ought to go to savings.
Right. Absolutely.
10% to your charitable organization, your church or whatever, 10% in savings, and then you got the rest to live on. But that's hard. I know that's hard to do.
But are there any hidden subjects that are starting to come to the forefront right now during this session that you were not aware of, or you were aware of but didn't think they really would gain any traction as far as trying to take over some of the time of this legislative session? Tell us some of those stories. Is there anything that you didn't expect that now is taking up a lot of time?
There are a couple issues, Zeb, that I've seen come through the Education Committee that are not yet settled, that were somewhat of a surprise to me. They would be something that would fly under the radar for, I think, most people, but I think they're pretty important. One is we're seeing a bill that's come forward that has to do with the contracting of teachers, and in particular what they're wanting to do is change the requirement that a teacher at a public charter school would be contracted with in a different way than a regular public teacher, public school teacher. I've been watching that bill because I think that we have to continually be aware of what our situation is with our teachers in the state of Idaho.
Right.
And I say that because I know in the Cassia County School District this year, they had a heck of a time. As a matter of fact, in some instances, they just didn't, hiring. They did not hire teachers. I know in Declo, I want to say Declo 4th grade didn't get hired. So there's a real struggle in the market over teachers. As I think I've said to you before, Zeb, the other thing we're seeing at Idaho State University is the enrollment in the education college is way down. That means we're not producing as many teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see a bill that what I perceive is going to treat one teacher different than another, I just think it's one more issue that will make teachers not look favorably on the Idaho school system. That's something that I've really been kind of focused on.
What is the rationale there? Hold on a second, Kelly. Just a second. Hold on. What's the rationale in thinking that there should be a discernment between the status of teachers? I mean, who's pushing this, and what's the reason?
Well, it's interesting you ask who's pushing this because, like I said, this benefits, arguably, some charter schools. Now, I have done some research on this, and what I've discovered is that each charter school has now been polled and asked whether they support this legislation. Only 1/3 of the charter schools that were polled were in favor of it. 1/3 were opposed to it, and 1/3 said they just didn't know. So it is a curious question, Jeb, because what I'm learning is there's not even a majority of the charter schools that are in favor of this legislation. And I think that the other thing, Zeb, when you talk about what the kind of practical effect of this is, what this would do is allow charter schools to write their own contracts for teachers, whereas your regular school teacher for a public school would not have that option.
Mm-hmm.
Now, me being a conservative and me being a guy that has kids in school, I'm not opposed to a lot of local control over those school contracts. I'm really not. What I don't like is a message to our teachers that we're going to favor some over the others. That's what I'm not liking about that bill.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And I rudely interrupted you, but I had to ask that question. And you said there was another point of education that you also wanted to bring out. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes, Zeb. And no, you can come. This is your show. You interrupt me all the time. Zeb, there's another bill, and it's about school district voting. And it's really caught my attention because sometimes when someone puts forward a piece of legislation which they think is really going to be great, there are unintended consequences that end up, I think, affecting the state in ways they hadn't anticipated. And this one is a particular Senate bill that is proposing to change the way we select our trustees in our school districts. So currently, the way it works is that if you live, let's say, in Malta, and you get a school district trustee from your area, the only people voting for that school district trustee are the folks from that area, from Malta.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it's been since the 1960s, as I've looked at the statute. That's how we've selected our trustees for schools. There is a bill that would completely change that so that it would be a county-wide or a district-wide election. Now, in some school districts, that's going to be more efficient. It's going to be easier for them to administer. But I have some concerns because I think in Cassia County, it suits us to be able to send our own representative into that school board from different areas, whether it be Oakley or Declo or Malta or Burley or wherever. And I think that has been a critical piece of being able to get stuff done in a large school district.
Absolutely.
What I'm noticing is, Zeb, that we're running the risk with this new legislation of what I would argue is kind of disenfranchising our rural areas. And so that's a bill that I'm watching very, very closely. The authors and sponsors know I'm not super pleased with it. And so we're negotiating, but we'll see how that moves forward. It's just going to be coming to committee here before long.
Okay, but now let me again jump in here and ask a question. Why would anyone want to try to take away the local flavor and, quite frankly, the local intelligence of a prospective problem within their school district or their school and turn it over to somebody that's far remote away from it that doesn't know the answers or the ins and outs? I can't imagine the common sense in this.
Yeah, I don't either, Zeb. I mean, again, it's kind of the lens you look at it from, but in some of these districts that are smaller, that have a closer population, they just see the inefficiency or the inconvenience of having to track who lives in what sub-district. And then have them vote only in that sub-district. They think it'd just be easier to have one polling location and everybody come in and you choose your trustees. The other argument they're making, which actually does make a little bit of sense, but not enough for me to get behind it, is that this way your voters get more chances to vote for their school district officials. So, again, these are never entirely black and white issues. They have to be thought out very carefully. But when I apply this particular one to the Cassia County School District in particular, more than the Minidoka School District, it bothers me a bit.
Absolutely.
So, I've been working with Speaker Bedke and Fred Wood on this. As a matter of fact, we're going to meet tomorrow with Superintendents Dr. Ken Cox and Dr. Smyer here in Boise. And we're going to discuss this issue.
Okay. Now, I've got about 2 minutes left. Kelly, bring us up to speed. Anything else that you want your listeners to listen to this morning?
Well, I wanted to say, Zeb, this morning I had a really great opportunity to meet with the Idaho 4-H group. And I was a 4-H'er when I was a kid. I took the Lamb Project and the whole bit. And, of course, my kids still do that. But today we had the Know Your Government program in Boise. I had breakfast with a whole bunch of really smart kids from the Mini-Cassia area. And Carrie McMurray's daughter was here, Ben Beck. We had quite a nice group. And they had an excellent delegation. They are a very good example of what is great about the Mini-Cassia area. And if your kids aren't in these kinds of programs, get them into these programs. They're very good. They teach about government. And so I just wanted to mention them because they've been a real treat to have on the Capitol today.
Let me ask you real quick, as a former 4-H'er myself, and you said you were in 4-H, are we seeing, in your opinion, a diminishment of 4-H and FFA and agriculture, or are we seeing a resurgence in people wanting to get involved? What are your thoughts on that?
I think in our area we're doing okay. I think if you looked nationwide, Zeb, you would see that there is a little bit of a diminishment. I think that the FFA and the 4-H programs have been good to respond to that. They have new projects, new programs. You can do almost anything you want with 4-H anymore. It's not just your lamb or your swine project. It's all kinds of things.
Absolutely. We have a quick call for you, Kelly. I've only got a minute left. Caller, real fast. Go ahead, please.
On this school board election thing, I sure don't think the people in the city of Burley ought to vote and elect the board commissioner out in Malta. I think the Malta people ought to be able to elect them. Thank you.
Absolutely. Kelly,
you have nailed the issue right on the head. And it's nothing against Burley. It really isn't. It's a matter of, in our school district, for it to function properly, we need to have seats at the table.
Absolutely.
Where they are elected by the local community, and they make the voice for that community. And I think that's the issue. You've hit it right on the head, and I couldn't agree with you more. So we'll see how that legislates.
Well, it's government in general, Kelly, when you think about it. I mean, when you take we the people, away from the local getting involved with the school or whatever local politics, and you diminish them and say, oh, no, somebody from 40 or 50 or 100 miles away is going to solve the problem, you've absolutely taken it out of the hands of the people that are the most responsive to settling the problem.
You're dead on, and all you got to do is look around, and what you'll see is the most responsive government is your local government. Your federal government doesn't respond the same way. And so this is a truth that we just can't escape. It's how it is.
Absolutely. Kelly, there's just not enough time. I wished I had more time, but I certainly want to say thank you again to Senator Kelly Anthon and Idaho Legislative Update for this Monday. God bless you, my friend, and I'll look forward to having you back on the program soon. Thank you again.
Well, thank you. God bless, Deb, and thanks for all your listeners, and it sure is an honor to be up here representing the Mini-Cassia area.
All right, Kelly, thank you so much. We're blessed to have that man working for us, Senator Kelly Anthon. Thank you very much. Right now, let's send it back over to our main studios, and we'll be back in about 3 minutes. Don't go away.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
I've said it many times on this program, and I'll say it many more, that I've been so blessed with dear friends and guests and visitors on this show that mean an awful lot to me and my family. This man is one of those. He's a dear friend. He's been a dear friend of the state of Idaho as a former representative and still serving on the Idaho Water Board, and I'm just honored to have him on my show, and that's former Representative Bert Stevenson. Good morning, Bert. How are you?
He has not called in yet.
Oh,
unfortunately.
Well, he will be calling shortly. You can bet on that, Wheels. I appreciate that. And hopefully he'll be calling in the next couple of minutes. So just jump in anytime and let me know if you would, please. I want to remind you, too, speaking of Bert and what we're going to talk about, water issues, and then also the Mini-Cassia Lincoln Day Luncheon that's coming up this Saturday, February the 20th. And it's going to be a meet and greet starting at 12:30 p.m. with lunch at 1:30 p.m. and auction after that. And it's going to be at Maury's Steakhouse Event Center this coming Saturday. So everybody try to get their tickets and be there. Okay. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to do something a little different than what we've done in the past. We're going to have a split hour, actually a split hour and a half with the same guests. I'll tell you how this is going to work. Tomorrow we're going to have the open forum from 8:06 to 9 o'clock with all of your questions and answers and comments about various political stories, etc. Then at 9:06, Frosty Woldridge is going to be on the air. Then at 9:30, and he's got so much to bring us as far as what's going on with the sage grouse and so much that's going on with the wolf issue and so much that's going on with public land issues. We're going to have 9:30. Jack Euler's going to be here in the studio. And then at 10 o'clock, we're going to have Dr. History. And then at 10:30, we're going to go back to Jack Euler again because of all that he has for information for us tomorrow. So we're going to have kind of a split hour there, if you will. That's tomorrow on Tuesday. Let's check over with Wheels and see if Bert Stevenson's on the line. Has he called in yet, Wheels?
Yes, sir.
Thank you much. Once again, a dear friend and a super friend of the state of Idaho is that former Representative Bert Stevenson. Good morning, Bert. How are you?
Very good, Zeb. Zeb, I can barely hear you, so I hope I'm coming through a little better than...
I'll ask Wheels to kind of turn it up a little bit. I'm having trouble hearing this morning also, and I'm going to have to call the engineer later on and see if we can't boost that up a little bit. Hopefully you can hear me a little bit better. Bert, I wanted to start our conversation off this morning talking about water. We are at the mid-portion of February. What does the water situation look like for this next year?
Well, Zeb, we're still our reservoirs, we're about 62% full now, and that's the Upper Snake reservoirs, and we're pretty reasonably good. The one thing that worries us a little right now, Zeb, is that we're concerned we're starting to lose the lower snow, and that keeps our natural flow rights running longer in the spring and into the summer. And we don't, in eastern Idaho, we don't have as much high snow as we would like to have. Now, we still have time to get some. They talk about the El Nino and our climate variation. We're a little concerned that maybe our lower snow will not be there as often as it used to be.
Now, Bert, let me ask you this. You say we're about 62% of full. Where should we be on a good water year as compared to where we are now?
Well, it depends on where we start from. This year we were down a little lower. We're right now really close to the average of where we're at every year. But normally, when we get into the spring, the Mays and Junes, then that snow comes off and our reservoirs continue to fill. And that's what worries us, that it may peak earlier. Last year it peaked earlier, and then we had the rains and kind of carried us on through.
When you look at the weather patterns over the years, Bert, and you know this more than anybody, what about now? Here we're looking at the middle portion of February, the 15th, and we've lost a lot of the chance for some big snows, maybe. But in other years gone by, have we always managed to kind of eke out maybe a late season snowstorm that helped us?
It happens quite often, Zeb, and the other thing that has happened the last few years is we've had some spring rains that have really extended that water out so that people were able to get their crops harvested.
Now, you, of course, a man that has been in our legislative session for many, many years. You probably heard Kelly Anthon a few moments ago, Senator Kelly Anthon, talking about water issues and how it's going to be years before some of these issues are settled. What about you, and what about the Idaho Water Board? I mean, when you folks get together, what is being done to solve some of these problems?
Well, Zeb, I really appreciated Senator Anton's comments this morning, and I appreciated your feelings about our gentleman that lives up in the Sun Valley Ketchum area that had his op-ed in the paper last week. I would have really liked to have sat down with him, but you never win those battles when people have their mind made up. Let me tell you that the water users are making sacrifices. In this settlement agreement with the surface water, the pumpers are giving up about 12% of their historical use of water. They're going to cut back. Some of them are going to do it by planting less acres, some different crops. But when I read those kind of things in the paper, I get livid, because you'd think that the farmers aren't paying a nickel or doing anything to survive or to help solve these water problems.
You know, I look at this situation with, and I'm going to call it the way it is, John Marvel has been very divisive for the state. He's been very divisive against agriculture in general over the years that he was with the Western Watersheds Project. But to say that agriculture should eat the sustaining bill, it's everybody. It's the small communities. It's the Twin Falls. It's the Boise's. It's the Pocatellos. Everybody is going to benefit from a better water recharge, not just agriculture.
Well, Zeb, I can tell you that the Water Board now is working on trying to find solutions for the Wood River drainage up there.
Right.
And if Mr. Marvel thinks that, well, and this is what we're finding up there, is the people that have had the old historic water rights are struggling to have enough water to do it. The people that have come in and built their big homes, huge golf courses, and whatever have you, are the same people that think they ought to have all the water they want. And because they have money, they are in the process of trying to buy up everybody's water rights.
Bert, is our state of Idaho any different in the water usage or needs as compared to other states here in the Northwest right now?
Zeb, we're not. In fact, Idaho is probably farther along for resolving these problems than California, Arizona, Colorado, Kansas. Those areas are really struggling on how to maintain their aquifers. California, they've got some of those aquifers there that the ground's even sinking, and we haven't experienced that here.
Well,
because of what we're doing now.
Yeah.
We're trying to recharge, and we have enough water that goes out of the state if we can use it. And Zeb, I can't give enough credit to the surface water people and the people that have these canals now that we're using in the winter months to recharge with, of cooperating and working with us. And another man that really needs some accolades is Vince Alberti. He knows these canal systems in the Milner area here, the Twin Falls, north side, those, and so we know places we can recharge water, and I appreciate his wisdom in helping the water board find those places and work out contracts with these canal companies. It's expensive for them to run water all winter and still maintain their systems and that.
Yeah, now, you mentioned California a few moments ago, and I think it's really worthy of you and your professionalism and expertise to talk a little bit about California versus Idaho. When you look at California, I would say that they have had a vast amount of mismanagement with politicians that have bent towards the environmentalists and have gone away from the actual good uses of water in that state. I think the state of Idaho is far and above any other state in the Northwest for the management of their water problems. Am I being prejudiced, or am I right?
No, you're right, Zeb. California, as far as their groundwater is concerned, has never had any restrictions on who could pump or what. You heard our senator talk about how the state had over-appropriated, and that's probably true. At the time, we didn't have the understanding of the aquifer and what it had, and so I don't particularly want to blame people for what they did or didn't do, but I do want to tell you that our people today are really making an effort to try and resolve it, and we'll make it work. We know what happened last winter, the recharge we did last winter, and we saw an increase in the spring flows. Not probably always as much as we'd like, but if we can do it here in Upper Valley, and then Heavenly Father will bless us with a winter too. I know there are people that are sick and tired of mud and the dairymen with water and rain and snow, but bless their hearts, we appreciate them sharing their way.
You know, though, Bert, don't you think that even today, after you've been a representative for the state for many, many years and now on the water board, wouldn't you say that the general public is a little bit naive about the value of water? I'm surprised some of the people I talk to in some of the metropolitan areas, whether it's Boise or wherever, they really are kind of naive about the value of our water and where everything comes from.
Well, and that's true, Zeb. I don't think people realize the threats that are looming out there that we're trying to resolve with the state of Washington. This is in northern Idaho, where historically they've had too much water. All of a sudden, the last 2 years, they've had a shortage of water, and what's going into the state of Washington now, they're crying that they've got to have more water to keep their stream flows, their minimum stream flows up, and so we'll keep working at it. Senator Antonin indicated that Treasure Valley doesn't fully understand. I can tell you that Treasure Valley is closer to an aquifer shortage than any of us realize. And we're in the process of trying to identify where this money is going to be spent, and not just here in the Eastern Snake Plain. We know what we've got to do here. The other areas, we're trying to determine where best to do the recharge and how to do it. Mountain Homes is another one. Boy, it's a difficult thing. Where do we get water to recharge the aquifer at Mountain Home.
Yeah, no, Bert, let me also, and we've talked about this in programs past, but I want to mention it again this morning. We're talking about many people being naive about the value and the usage of water, but then we're also talking about other interests from outside of the state of Idaho trying to take our water and divert it to them. What are some of the fears you have with the remaining time with the Obama administration that might happen again?
Oh, Zeb, your show's only a 3-hour show. I don't think that we've got time to express my feelings of what's going on in Washington, D.C.
But there are others that want our water. I think that's basically...
There are others that want our water, and we watch what's happening, and this is the one thing we have to be careful of here in Idaho. We have in Nevada, and the same thing's happening in California, that they're piping that water long distances, going up and buying water rights and piping it into those larger communities. It does away with the economy of our rural areas.
Now, Bert, one thing I wanted to get into before I run out of time this morning, and I've said this year after year on my program, that the Mini-Cassia Lincoln Day Luncheon, it's an opportunity for people to go not only to lunch and visit with their legislators and ask questions and demand answers, but it's also a time to really learn how politics in the state of Idaho works. And that's coming up this Saturday at Maury's Steakhouse. Give us a little background about who's going to be there and how they can get tickets.
Zeb, there's two ways you can get tickets. You can call the chairman of either Minidoka or Cassia County. We join with the Cassia and Minidoka County. Those chairmen each have tickets. You can come to the door and get your ticket. I think there's 2 tickets with your name on it. And Zeb, before we get farther into the week, I'll try and get you a list of all of those. The ones that I do know are going to be there is the state chairman, Steve, is going to be there, and Dave Johnson from the Boise office is there. We haven't got a full list of all of the there. It's my understanding that Mike Simpson has committed to be there. I know an invitation was issued to Mike Crable. The people in Washington, sometimes, because Lincoln Days all over the state go for the next 3 weeks here.
Right.
And so sometimes they're not able to make it there. Historically, we've had a pretty good attendance from our state election holders. Our 2 representatives and our senator have committed to be there.
Right.
And so we feel really fortunate.
But, you know, Bert, the thing I've been saying on my program, and I think you'll agree with me, is it's like in an election time. People will gripe and they'll complain, and then you'll hear them at the coffee shop the next day, and they'll say, well, did you go vote? And they'll say, no, I didn't take the time. Well, here is an opportunity to visit and ask questions of their political leadership, and why pass it up? Try to get the answers directly from the horse's mouth. Wouldn't you agree?
Zeb, I know your great love for Mr. Obama, and yet it amazes me the number of people that tell me they didn't vote at the last election because they wasn't happy with who they wanted. If you don't vote, then whoever got in there, you voted for him, whether you like him or whether you don't.
Well, now, tickets, you said, can be obtained at the door.
As well as there's quite a few tickets have been purchased, and some of our precinct people are out soliciting. Your precinct people will have tickets, or we'll arrange to get tickets for you.
Okay, now the meet and greet starts at 12:30, and that's where you can just literally ask questions and find out what's going on. Lunch at 1:30, and then the auction afterwards. What's the benefit of the auction, Bert? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we try to gather up some stuff to auction. It takes a little money to run the 2 county parties, and that's about the only way we can get any money is from these Lincoln Day things. also to help support our young Republicans.
Absolutely.
And Lucky Bourne will be the auctioneer.
He does a good job. Very good job.
And he does a really good job.
Well, I will be there along with my blushing bride, and we'll tell everybody to get their tickets for the Minnecasia Lincoln Day Luncheon this coming Saturday at Maury's Steakhouse. Bert, I appreciate you being on the air talking about water issues this morning and everything else. God bless you, and we'll see you Saturday. How's that?
Zeb, I appreciate all that you do for we in this community and for the opportunity of talking about the water issues.
Well,
and as we get farther into the season here, and we'll get our reports here the first of next month on what the water forecast is. And appreciate you, Zeb.
All right, Bert. My dear friend Bert Stevenson, thank you very much. God bless. We'll see you Saturday at Maury's. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, sir. We were blessed with another great man that served our state for many, many years, former Representative Bert Stevenson, a very dear friend of this program. Oh, my goodness, it's time for the weather. And we're going to have the weather sponsored right now by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. You know what? It's tax return meat bundle time at Scarro's Meats. 70-plus pounds of beef, pork, and chicken for only $249 plus tax. Oh, my goodness, you can't pass that up. They deliciously guarantee everything they sell. And everything they sell is delicious at Scarro's Meats in Jerome. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather forecast for this Monday, February 15th, and President's Day. Looks like partly to mostly cloudy skies. It is going to be windy for today, so we are in a wind advisory through this afternoon. Out of the west, 20 to 25 miles an hour gusts possible above that. High of 53, tonight low of 34. Tomorrow, winds dying down out of the southwest, right around 8 miles an hour. Gonna have partly cloudy skies, high close to 60. 57 is what they're calling for with an overnight low of 33. Mostly cloudy and 56 for Wednesday. Rain showers and more wind expected, possibly out of the southwest up to 30 miles an hour. High of 45 for Thursday, overnight low of 31. Then for Friday, looking at partly cloudy skies, again high of 50. Yesterday's high was 44 and the overnight low was 35. That is your weather for Zeb Duran.
What a great job on President's Day. Thank you very much, Gina. Appreciate it. And brought to you by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. Oh, my goodness sakes. Got time for another call. Give me a jingle on the landline, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I'm waiting for your call, I also want to tell you about the Founders Day celebration going on for your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, my goodness sakes. They've got $50 off on custom wheels, and they've got, when you buy a set of 4, and $20 off wheel alignment when you buy 4 brand new tires. All of this for the Founders Celebration in honor of the great Mr. Les Schwab. And talk about great tire buys. Listen to this. They've got the Proxys 4 Plus tire, all-season performance tire, precise cornering and control on sale at just $138.42. Check it out at all the Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers serving you, including Lane in Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike in Buell, Mike in Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Absolutely the best. Serving you for the Founders Celebration, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You stop in and see them today. Once again, I want to remind you tomorrow on Tuesday, we've got Frosty Woldridge coming on the program. Always look forward to Frosty. And then, of course, we've got Jack Euler coming on the show. And also, my dear friend, Dr. History. Haven't talked to him for a couple of weeks. Looking forward to it. And along with your phone calls and your questions. So be sure and tune in tomorrow morning. I want to say again, and I mean this, Deanne and I we took off for about 2 weeks. We just needed to get away and enjoy a little respite from home and the business and everything. We went south to Arizona for some personal reasons and then also a little vacation, and it was absolutely phenomenal. We got down to Arizona, and the first 3 days we were there, it was so doggone cold. I thought I was up here in Idaho again. But then it warmed up, and we had temperatures into and exceeding the mid-80s. As a matter of fact, the last couple days we were there, it got up to about 88 and 89 degrees, and I relished every moment of it. Thank you for all your kind thoughts, your emails, your phone calls, everything. We do appreciate it. But we're back here in the saddle, and we're going to keep rolling right here at Zeb at the Ranch. Until tomorrow at 8:06, we'll saddle the horse and ride for 3 hours right here on the program on K-Bar 1230 a.m. and then streaming live on the internet, zebbell.com. We wish you a great day. And don't forget, the way things were are the way things ought to be. Thanks, Wheels. We'll see everybody tomorrow morning at 8:06.